How to penetrate the self-illusion. This is Jürgen Rasmussen. Welcome to the Provocative Hypnosis blog. So in this video, I want to give you two very practical, straightforward ways to actually see through the self-illusion. Now, to begin with, why would you even want to do it? Well, most of our suffering in life is psychological, and most of it is self-referential, meaning it refers to a self. And so much of our psychological activity revolves around protecting a self concept or enhancing or promoting a particular self. So when this is seen as an illusion and really seen as such in a way that's compelling and convincing, a lot of that activity will tone down and drop off. So there's a lot of freedom to be found in that. Also, if you care about truth, if you care about what is actually true about the nature of experience, well, then it really is an advantage to be able to discover that this entity like self or character that all the selfing activity revolves around is actually nowhere to be found. So, anyways, if we look at how the West seems to define a grown up, according to developmental psychologists, it's a psychological self in a way that consists of a couple of things. A, clear boundaries between subject, that which experiences, and object. Formal operations, as Jean Piaget used to talk about it, at its peak. So there's this sense that there's a thing like I or self in here, usually behind the eyes, looking out at a world which is separate, and that this I then chooses, decides, thinks, feels, and initiates, and that that's fundamentally who or what I am. That's one component of a psychological self. And the other component is that this sense of a permanent separate I is now, has a past, and is moving into the future. So a self sense that's kind of continuous over time. By the way, I would advise against not really exploring this terrain unless you have already developed the capacities that seems to be associated with developing such a psychological self, namely clear boundaries, the ability to see other people as humans in their own rights, with their own feelings and thoughts and fears and aspirations, not just someone who's part of a group or an extension of your own needs, and someone who's able to see that they fundamentally construct or create their own experience. The capacity to kind of think consequences and to have a sense of personal responsibility. These seem to be the capacities associated with developing an adult self. So unless you kind of have those pretty well developed and you have your shit together, meaning you're not too neurotic, I would not do this exploration. But if you have, there's enormous freedom to be found, or realized, I should say, in seeing through the self illusion. Now, when you do these very simple inquiries, and these are just two angles, these are just a couple of ways of doing it, but when you do them, it's really important that you rely on what's referred to as direct experience, meaning sensory experience. So when I talk about looking, I mean that literally. Can you actually see it? Can you actually feel it, smell it, taste it, sense it? Evidence that would hold up in a court of law, so to speak. Not that court systems are that functional generally, but you kind of get the gist of it, right? So kind of funny or ironically here, if the two main components of developing a psychological self is that sense of a self that has a continuity over time and a sense of self which is distinct from the world, two of the kind of typical, let's say, mystical or awakening type experiences is really seeing that all is one, meaning that you're fundamentally one with experience, and the sense of just now, 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 of time itself being a thought construct. So to kind of dispel this illusion that there's this stable I that has a past, is now, and moving into the future, one thing you can do experientially is to explore in your direct experience. Again, don't just sit around thinking about it and philosophizing about it, because that's just one thought kind of reflecting the next thought. But what you want to do is you want to explore whether it's possible in your direct experience to leave the present moment and to experience the future. And you want to explore whether it's possible in your direct experience to leave the present moment and to actually experience a future event. Is it possible to leave the present moment and to actually experience the past? Is it possible to leave the present moment and to actually experience a past event? You want to do that experiment enough times in direct experience until it's truly realized that what's called the past and the future are just thoughts occurring right now. And then you can try in your direct experience too to see if you can find the now. The particular now that you're referring to, when did it start? When does it end? So to be able to see time itself as a thought construct really helps to dispel that illusion. Of course, what you'll see too is that the the character that looks like you, the I, so to speak, never refers to something which is actually experienced. It's always inferred and always relate to what seems to be a future projection or a past reconstruction. Once that is truly seen, it really pulls the rug from this sense of a stable I over time. Now, regarding the second one, this notion that I'm somewhere in here, in a body separate from a world out there, what you might do is to experientially ask a question such as, where am I? Like, this I that I take myself to be, Jurgen, where is Jurgen? Now, what you might initially say is, well, I'm here, in this body, I'm here and you're there, and well, get a bit more specific. Like, where am I? Am I in the calves? Like, track what seems to be a body in sensory experience. See if it's possible to find the I or the self not as something inferred by thought, but as an actual sensory experience anywhere. Go into the head, so to speak, and try to localize exactly where is this I, this entity that all experiences seem to refer to? Is it anywhere to actually be found? Something else to notice too is that everything that you experience is experienced in consciousness. So, for example, my face right now or my hand, if I were to ask you, where are those perceptions experienced? You might say, well, on the computer screen, or I know that you're in Norway, but if I ask you, but is this an experience in consciousness or is it outside of consciousness? You'd notice experientially that the sight of my face or my hand are actually perceptions in consciousness. You've never had an experience outside of consciousness. All experience takes place in and is an expression of consciousness. But my face or my hand is defined as not you, it's other, right? But if you can notice experientially that this perception is in consciousness. Now, take something which thinking defines as you or yours. For example, the experience of breathing or the sense that you're somehow in here. And just notice that that's also occurring in consciousness. And then experientially ask the question, this perception compared to the sensation of breathing, the sensation of breathing that's called I or mine, and this perception, which is defined as not me, is one of them closer to consciousness than the other? Is there any distance between this perception and the consciousness in which it appears? Is there any distance between this perception and the consciousness which it is an expression of? Is this expression of consciousness closer to or further away from consciousness than the sensations labeled breathing? And if there really is no I to be found anywhere, then what's going on? Now, what might happen for some of you is that there are sensations, for example, that show up, and you might go, "Well, I'm here, I'm in the head." But is there an I or a self to be found anywhere in those sensations? And if there isn't, where is the self that those sensations imply or infer or seem to point to? Notice that those sensations are an expression of consciousness. And then one interesting question to ask can be, can a sensation think? Can a sensation feel? Can a sensation really be aware? Truly interesting questions to ponder, to explore in direct experience. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions or comments, please post them. I want to alert you to my next psychological illusion model online training now in 2025. It's taking place the 16th and the 17th of February. You can go to provocativehypnosis.com and take a look at the seminar page to click on the link there and get all the information. Also, if you're looking to either do change work to make some sort of change in your life, whether it's fears or phobias or anger management, or you're depressing or struggling with chronic pain, and you're curious to see whether you or I could be a good fit, you can reach me at provocativehypnosis.com. Also, if you would like to explore the awakening journey, the process of meditation, if you're stuck on that path or you would like to explore that, you can also reach me through provocativehypnosis.com. As always, thanks for listening.